Hello, this is Mark Boyer, and this is a video being done on the last day of winter, okay? On the grounds that this is something to celebrate, okay? Last month, police officers did their best to arrest me, and wanting to drag me and take me in flight to Alberta on a standing warrant of doing 8 to 11 days in jail, which clearly would have fulfilled Revelations 2:10. Okay? I sent notices to the effect that this is what was going down within a week of knowing that I was going to be arrested, saying, hey, this is what's going down, giving a notice, okay, that the 2300 evenings and mornings was approaching. And they're obviously still stuck in the stupor, in stupor, okay? They're fucking nuts, in fact, okay? But that's regardless. Everyone should be aware of that, okay? We are ruled by dog-star God haters, and everyone is sucking their ass, okay? Everyone in authority who has an oath is bound to say, no, we don't do this, okay? This is not our job, okay? But they all wallow in the glory of being despots. It's repeated itself throughout history, and frankly, it's predicted in the Second Commandment. It's predicted in 2 Thessalonians 2. That's just the way it is. They are, basically, I made the call from the West 2 months ago. The Supreme Court of Canada, on letterhead, having the Order of Canada, not the Order of the Garter, as its letterhead, said, no, we're not accepting a mandamus. Well, you know what? Those perverts have just condemned themselves and the Queen to a merciless death, and I don't have the slightest problem with that. Something has to be done about the fact that we are in full-fledged 2 Thessalonians 2, and as to prophecy, I must not shrink, okay? Last week, or 2 weeks ago, I didn't shrink. I turned myself in on the eve of the 2300 evenings and mornings of my chest plate being snapped in two, as to the notice, as to my notice. And I was nearly killed again, okay? Brutally attacked and tortured by police. And nothing's changed, okay? Frankly, what's happening is I now have to turn myself in and forcibly turn myself in to face the 8 to 10 day sentence in Alberta, because it really does fulfill 2 Thessalonians 2. And it really is, as to God's prediction, the only way they'll ever learn, okay? They really are stuck in a powerful delusion sent by God for delighting in wickedness. And so are destroyed because they refuse to love the truth. And the truth is that the new covenant is being pressed. They know it. They all know it. But they'd rather stick their head in the sand and say, no, 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 we want to face a merciless death. And that's exactly what's happening. The Supreme Court of Canada and that bitch Queen did it all by herself, okay? 2 years ago, the American government, while during an election, both Obama, I was in jail while Obama was in power and while Bush was in power. And you know what? Again, both of those perverts would rather choose a merciless death. And the prophecy of Romans 11 and 10 reads like it should be the American, the United States, that becomes the sons of the living God, okay? And they don't want it. Your leaders and Canadian leaders and the Queen herself want a merciless death for everyone, okay? And that's a promise given by Daniel in Daniel's 8, okay? And the 2300 evenings and mornings came and went. And when it came to me walking up to the wicket and saying, Mr. Boyer, do you accept these terms? Yes, I did. I could have stayed in jail and fulfilled that prophecy, but I came out, okay? I went to a court case a week later, and They capitulated everything. The fucking perverts really want to play this game, but they don't want it to end. Okay? That's reality, okay? They love playing the game of despots. They love playing the game of perverts of the law. It gives them immense power. You know, the prophecy in 2 Thessalonians 2 says that, you know, there's someone who's going to call himself above God, this man of lawlessness, okay? Now, every pervert of the church believes that I am this man who's going to call himself above God. And the reality is there are 13 orders of the Illuminati that are above the 33rd degree and totally off the books, who actually think that they are above God. And they are wreaking havoc throughout the world in fulfilling of the prophecy of the beast, okay? Who will wreak havoc on the economies of the world and then establish a new world order, which is what the prophecy says, okay? Well, that's a Jewish prophecy. But Jews are so, right now, okay? The reality is that Jeremiah's prophecy of 1 through 7 is being played out like a book in Israel, okay? Everything that Jeremiah said, don't do, they're doing because they want to face the merciless death. These people really are stuck in a curse sent by God for delighting in wickedness. So let them have what they want. All they have to do is arrest me. And as soon as I brought up the fact that, oh, you arrest me, it's 2 Thessalonians 2, or Revelations 2:10, all of a sudden the arrest warrants disappeared. That's all there is to it. They disappeared. So I'm getting a hold of a Mr. McKenna, okay? A Mr. Sergeant McKenney was the chief arresting officer in charge of my file of my original Compassion Club bust, which is now before the Supreme Court of Canada. It's no coincidence that this pervert, this God-hater called, you know, Steve McKenna, was picked. Because after all, he's chosen. Isn't that great? You know, and technically, you know, there's a man called Mark Levy, Chief Forensic Officer of BC. And I filed papers with him last week saying that as a Levite, and doing the biblical function of Levites in the system, he is condemning his entire tribe to a merciless death. And he might think that's, he won't respond, he won't talk to me, he refuses to do anything, okay? That pervert of the law called Mark Levy is facing a merciless death, and he'll send the entire tribe of Levites with him throughout history. That's how big it is to reject the new covenant. And that pervert called Mark Levy knows it. He also knows that the prophecy says that if anyone cares to speak to me, that I will win them over. And nobody wants to talk to me. There isn't a Mason around who wants to talk to me. There isn't a Mason around who wants to have anything to do with me because they might believe in the truth if they actually did. So there's orders out there never to talk to me, okay? And frankly, it's the order of the black rod in the East that has to rise in indignation. And every last one of those fucking perverts are Masons, okay? The only way you get to those jobs is by being a Mason. So says the history books, okay? It says that, you know, the upper echelons of British security and all instrument holders have been Masons for the last 300 to 400 years. So the chances of this action happening by Masons is real. The prophecy that it's Masons, the men of the Nineveh who rise in indignation, is inevitable. It's just a matter of whether it happens before I'm killed or after I'm killed. Okay? That's all there is to it. And they insist that it happens before anybody does. And may they face the merciless death that they are facing. No one cares to repent. No one thinks anything anyone has ever done means anything. After all, Jesus Christ never lived. If you listen to those perverts from Zeitgeist, who's getting all their funding from Masons and fucking God haters, you know, they hate God. They actually say that Jesus Christ never lived. The fucking perverts, okay? That's just fucking perversion. And it's all part of the Masonic plan outlined by Albert Pike 120 years ago. And we really are stuck in the curse of the second commandment. And if they, obviously they don't believe it, or worse, they believe it and they want to die the merciless death. And frankly, that's what I believe. So, in the next couple of weeks, in the next week, I got to push some buttons, okay? The reality is, again, we have this situation where Bud's court date lands on one of these mythical 2300 evenings and mornings of when I was shafted, okay? I personally believe the prophecy is fulfilled when they made my 1574-1 case, dropped it, and then went to 1574-2, a double jeopardy case. And I'm not actually sure what date that happened, but we're coming up to it. And they picked the 23rd of March as being that date, and I accepted, okay? So let's see what they rule on Bud the Oracle, because it gives me a chance that the Oracle actually might get justice, or he won't. And that's just the way it is, and that's the way I'm playing it, okay? Regardless, I've made contact with Mr. McKenna, okay, Sergeant McKenna, and he's on holidays, so I got a hold of a guy called Al Kunis, okay? Al Kunis is now sitting there, and I've left messages, and they get more insulting every time I send them, you know, and the reality is this pervert won't arrest me, even though he has hard paper to the effect that I should be arrested, okay? Now, the reality is I'm going to go turn myself in. And if I have to take flight to go to Alberta to do that, that's exactly what I'm going to do. The reality is the prophecy says in Luke, don't kill this messenger. Well, you know what? For the last 200 years, 300 years, every prophecy in the book that says don't do this, they've been doing. Because they actually believe this line in Timothy that says that Jesus Christ will come from the worst and he will save the worst, okay? And I really am fulfilling that prophecy. But you know what? It's impossible to forgive anyone who doesn't say they're sorry. A rebellion must begin. This is not a revolution. It's a rebellion, okay? There's guys called, like Max Egan, and there's, in Australia, there's guys like Maxwell Jordan. There's guys like Alex Jones. There's guys like David Icke. There's all these perverts out there who are doing nothing but spreading the fear factor for the Illuminati. You're sucking the tit of evil men by not promoting anything other than revolution, okay? The reality is those in power really are revolting, okay? They are revolting. They are so revolting because they want us to rebel. And the prophecy says that the meek will inherit the earth. And it sure looks like the meek are not rebelling, and they're waiting for someone just like me. And regardless of what goes down, you know, bottom line, the least of my problems is that I will be, as to Isaiah 53, I will ascend to the hall of the great prophets upon my miserable death, okay? And I failed. Now, you know, the reason I'm going to the hall of the great prophets is because I'm just like every other prophet and failed. It's their plan that no prophet ever succeeds. Why? They want the merciless death. Now, the reality is they're stuck in a curse. And the only way they can get out of the curse is to suffer this last day. You know, they're all seek for 300 years. Every Mason throughout the world has been doing all of these ceremonies before 2 or 3 witnesses. And that's a Hebrews 10:28 thing. That on the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses, they all bear a merciless death. Now, every Mason out there, you're all stuck in a powerful curse of desiring the merciless death. And that's what made Daniel so terrified. He actually saw in his vision of the end times an entire society that craved and wanted to die for Satan. The reality is I hold the creation. I must deliver it to Jacob. And as to 1 Corinthians 15, it says I deliver it back to my Lord. Okay? And that's the wrong person to deliver it to. Okay? If they don't want it, they don't want it. They obviously don't want it. So let them face the merciless death. The way to do that is for me to go to jail. Okay? Because 2 Thessalonians 2 says that Jesus Christ rises to the occasion and destroys them all over this, which is I don't have the slightest problem with. I don't think anyone out there has a problem. I don't even think the victims who are facing the merciless death have a problem with this because they're getting what they want. And on that, we'll see what happens in the next week. And may you live in interesting times.